On today's show, Lizzie McGraw of Tumbleweed and Dandelion talks to us about having a brick and mortar store. Is it worth it? How has it affected her bottom line? Stay tuned. Hey kids, and welcome to Designed by Wingnut Social. I am your host, Darla Jethro Powell, and if you can hear, I have a little bit of a cold. I'm getting over my voice right here today, so bear with me. I don't think I'm contagious anymore, so you don't have to worry about that. I just, I get schmutzy. I get schmutzy for a while. So apologies, but the show must go on. Good thing I don't sing for a living. All right, guys, today's guest is Lizzie McGraw of Tumbleweed and Dandelion out of Venice, California. And Lizzie has an online store and a brick and mortar store where she does a lot of custom stuff. And she and I get into a conversation. We go on a little bit about her store, how it came to be, how she almost actually literally went out of business 25 years ago. And now she has a thriving interior design firm by the same name, Tumbleweed and Dandelion, and the brick and mortar and the online store. So she tells us a little bit about her experience and gives us some advice. If you're an interior designer looking to do something similar, a brick and mortar store, having a shop is not a small undertaking, and there's a lot of risk involved, a lot of things that can go wrong, but also a lot of things that can go right. And Lizzie walks us through on how she's managed to do so in 25 years and compete with the big boys like Amazon. All right, guys, you know the drill. Before I get into my conversation with Lizzie McGraw, let me tell you a little bit about her. Lizzie McGraw is an interior designer and the owner, of course, of Tumbleweed and Dandelion, a mainstay on the ever-trendy Abbot Kinney Blvd in Venice, California. She established her home goods store over 25 years ago, and it remains the destination for scores of design and decor enthusiasts seeking anything from a custom-made sofa to Tumbleweed's own hand-poured candles. Lizzie designed Tumbleweed and Dandelion with the intention of making sure everyone would feel welcome, whether they are spending money or not. How nice is that? Wingnuts, help me in welcoming Lizzie McGraw to the show. Hey there, Lizzie McGraw. Welcome to the show. How the hell are you?
I'm great. Good morning.
Good morning. It's so nice to see you. Thank you so much for being flexible. And as you can hear, I'm a little bit under the weather and we had to reschedule. But thank you for joining me today. And we're going to have a fascinating conversation because you, my dear, are very impressive. You have a terrific interior design business out there in Venice. You have a brick and mortar shop. You have online shopping. And we're going to help our audience today do the same if they so desire. Are you game?
I'm totally game.
I love to hear it. All right. Before we dig into this, just tell us a little bit about your design firm, which, by the way, I love the name, Tumbleweed and Dandelion. How that just makes me have warm fuzzies. I love that.
It's, the origin of the name is funny because when I started my store almost 26 years ago, and I was truly a child and did not have any business sense, I had a partner at the time who I'm grateful for, mostly because I never would have done it if I didn't have that partner. But she also came in one day and said, I've named the store. And I said, what do you mean you named the store? And she said, yeah, I've called it Dandelion. And I said, oh, that's so great because there is a Dandelion Cafe on the corner. So now there's 2 dandelions on our street. So luckily, we just sort of coined the name Tumbleweed and Dandelion because we knew we were going to use my grandmother as a little moniker with her little friend Henry on it, and they looked like Tumbleweed and Dandelion. And little did we know the tumbleweed is the seed that spreads the weed that spreads the dandelion. So it sort of worked out to my advantage in the end.
I didn't know that. I just learned something new.
You
How
did.
cool is that?
Well, I didn't know that for 20 years, so it's not like that was not planned.
So is the other dandelion still there? Is it dandelion?
No, she is not. That lasted a year. And
out.
Honestly, at the end of that year, we made money, but through, adolescence and whatever, youth and all kinds of things that we did and wasted. I was like really in debt when we broke up. And so I literally stayed in the business just to pay back everybody I owed money to. And somehow between just surviving, years later became thriving, So it wasn't a quick journey by any means.
Wow. That sounds like a whole podcast in and of itself.
That's a whole story. For sure.
All right. So I kind of want to dig into that a little bit more before we get into the shopping thing, because, all right. So you were in a situation to where you just kept the business open to repay your debts at that time. And was your mindset just only to do that, and then you had an exit strategy? It wasn't to turn it around and to be where you are today?
No, honestly, I never had, like, one of my jokes is, and it's a bad joke, but it's true, is that when I asked my father for a small amount of money just to start the store when we started it. And it literally paid like the first and last month's rent. And that was the only money I received in it. But I was like, I had to pay people. I didn't know he said, "What's your business plan?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" I was like, I have to write something up. I was like, I just want to do this thing, you know? So I would have considered myself, I would not say I was that talented, but I was very creative. So in that part of my life, I just thought, it was all like, dandelions and roses and paint this and do that. Learning to be a business person, I literally learned just by the fact that once I started to employ people, I was like, okay, this is the rule. I have to have enough money every payday to pay everybody. And once I don't have enough money, I have to stop. And I had to pay back people. So I was really motivated by just surviving. And I was good at what I did and good enough at what I did. And I diversified. Like, I did everything from painting furniture to helping people in their homes to, like, I started designing homes pretty straight away. I did all kinds of stuff.
All right. Well, I'm glad that worked out for you, because 20 years later, here we are on the podcast talking about your business, and hopefully we can help inspire, right, some designers out there.
Totally.
Okay. So one thing that we talked about in the green room was diversification. So not only do you have Tumbleweed and Dandelion as an interior design firm, you have a brick and mortar shop. I'm imagining you're a stocking dealer, and you also do online sales as well, right? So how did that evolve, and what was your thinking behind starting that? And then we'll dig in a little deeper.
Well, we always, we've always put our toes in the water to a few things. We do, like, our whole list of things that we actually do are everything from designing houses, designing our own furniture. We have a full retail store. We do staging of houses, which is a big thing for us. As well as, like, we create things. We make our own soaps and candles and blah, blah, blah. Nice. I think a lot of it has stayed with me because I'm on a very expensive street. And when I started on the street that I'm on, it was a nothing. And people would be like, with their lives, they'd come down to our street. Like, oh, that's a scary place. And then it became Architectural Digest and GQ said this is the best street in America. And then the rents tripled. And I've tried to buy my building since day one. And that, has not worked out. They want to keep it. And so I had to make that rent. So again, I was like, okay, if I did enough stagings, or if I did enough design, or if I painted enough houses, somewhere money was coming in. So it was always about, like, when the retail's slow, which retail gets slow, then I'd have something else to do. Now, for years, we tried to make our website fly. And it was always, like, sort of okay. We'd sell some candles. We'd sell some things. Nobody on my team was really, like, a website techie or any of that kind of stuff. And then really during the pandemic, when how people shifted, it took off. We had the time to work on it. And, our sales were, like, crazy. And then we've just kept it consistently decent. Sometimes they're better than others.
Let me just interrupt you really quick. What were you doing during the pandemic to make those sales take off?
Honestly, I think we were just putting content out that people were interested in, and we were selling home goods. So people wanted candles during the pandemic, and they wanted soft throws and, all kinds of things like that. Also, in the world of, like, beautiful humanity, so many people that were our clients and loved the fact that we were this brick and mortar that was independent as opposed to being a corporation on our street, were hollering at us the whole time, like, oh, we'll pay for our window treatments now, do them whenever you can, or we want to order things. Or I shipped I actually shipped a whole house of furniture to New Hampshire. And my guy and I got in our F-150 we met with movers. We met movers. We drove across country. We stopped one time in Indiana at a friend's house, and then drove straight to New Hampshire because it was, COVID, and nobody, you didn't want to use a, gas station bathroom. Don't touch anything, right?
Right.
And then literally redid somebody's house during that time. I
Wow.
was like, you do what you can to stay alive.
Right. I guess so. You said you were doing content marketing was that on social? Was that doing blogging, or tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, no, we have not been, and I've listened to a lot of the things that you guys just talked about. I went on a little Wingnut, let me check all these things out. And we were not consistent with a lot of things because you get busy and you don't do what it is you're supposed to do sometimes. But yeah, we've dabbled into blogs. What it really and to doing Instagram and to doing different stuff. I think for us, what also helped is before the internet really took over, we were in a lot of magazines. And then when the internet really became the thing that you needed to focus on, we didn't jump out, but we stayed alive enough that there was some interest, and we did sell things from it. And now again, we're getting on digital content that we need to be on, which has been really helpful for us. So yeah. I feel like some of it has just been hard work and good fortune, I would say. But, right. We are a little bit more organized and planned now. And a little bit, we do want to be an authentic company. Like, I don't always, what do you do on those days when you don't have anything to say? And,
yeah,
and there's a lot of humor in what we do because, when I was working on the book that we just put out, my original idea was all the funny things that actually happen in our lives when you're trying to do anything, when you're trying to, run a podcast, you do a show, work in a store, like I sent a painter to a house to paint cabana stripes in a bathroom, and I called to check on him, and he's like, everything's going great. I just taped everything up. I'm about to paint. And he goes, I'm playing with the cat. And I'm like, I don't have a cat. Okay. And then he's like, oh, and I don't know why you said it was upstairs. It's only one floor in this house. And I'm like, dude, where are you? So in any case, it was very funny. So I literally sent a painter to the wrong house. I got him out before he actually put paint on the walls, thankfully. And there's like a million of those stories in our history of the funny, the house where the curtain rod was longer than the house. How do, who measured?
That does sound, well, one of the biggest things about marketing, and it sounds to me like you're saying you learn this organically, is the storytelling piece.
Totally.
And, right. And that's what people love. That's what makes people super fans. And you did say, what do you say on some days? Right. And that's a whole other episode when you go into your strategy and your content strategy and stuff. And that's something that we excel here at Wingnut Social, but I digress. But that is what people really just love about following brands and storytelling, and makes them invested in what it is that you're putting out, and makes them feel good. I can honestly, I went as an interior designer myself. I don't think I've ever sent a painter to the wrong house. But that's a funny story. That endears me to you for sure. That's the kind of
I didn't
thing.
Actually send him to the wrong house. He went to the wrong house. But that's also funny too.
Yeah, yes. Just blame the painter. Yes. Blame the painter, Lizzie.
Exactly. It's totally his fault.
So the brick and mortar piece of your store of Tumbleweed and Dandelion, was that born from necessity to show clients product, or was that born as another revenue stream for you guys, and how's that working out?
It's great.
Okay.
And I honestly think that everything I've done, like starting the store in the beginning, it was not my dream to do that. It just sort of seemed like a good idea, and I'll play around with this. Sure. And it just worked out well enough. I mean, looking back on it now, everything I've done has afforded me like a beautiful life. I mean, I have everyone that I work with is wonderful. We have a wonderful crew. We all love what we do. There's a lot of passion in our daily life. We create a lot of really fun things. And, a big word is opportunity. We actually have the opportunity to do those great things. Right. We have customers that are willing to pay for those things. And Also, one of the things that has evolved for us is that since there has been a supply and demand issue since the pandemic, we
Right.
we make all of our own things. We make our own sofas and cabinets, and anything we can draw, we create. And
Hmm.
we've been able to satisfy people's needs more quickly and also with a good American made product.
Is that something that you're subcontracting out, or do you have your own
No,
manufacturer
we
people?
we
Okay.
totally do that for ourselves. We have our
Oh,
own
wow.
we have our own shop that makes all of our own sofas, and we have a shop that we make all of our own furniture in.
That's terrific. Okay. So, just going back a little bit to the brick and mortar stuff, you said that that wasn't really a dream of yours, but you did do it. So, what was the reasoning behind starting that? Was it just to diversify your revenue streams, and what percentage would you say that makes of Tumbleweed and Dandelion, that store? And a couple. Let me know if you forget any of this. And was it more just to sell to your interior design clients that product that was in the store, or kind of its own separate thing?
You know what? Now I would say that, like, some of the things you just said, it is for, like, now, like in the
Hmm.
beginning, though, literally, I was literally just a silly kid who was like, I guess we could make some money doing this. I was painting dressers on the sidewalk. People were buying them. I was like, yeah, I'll start a store. There was not a lot of thought put into that. As it
Okay.
evolved and I realized what I could do, I remember I walked into an architect's office, and I am a trained designer. And my father was also an architect, and I worked for him while I was growing up. So he really
Mhm.
taught me well. And I do believe that you really learn so much by actual practice. I think,
Mhm.
schooling is a really great thing. And, but actual practice, you learn construction, you learn an understanding and whatnot. I realized what I brought to the table and that really has guided me. So my own education and knowledge, there was a lot of people out
Mhm.
there who said they could do those things, but in reality didn't really have a grasp of what it is they needed to do.
Right.
Um, and so just one thing has like led to another throughout this whole journey.
So it sounds to me like you had a lot of synchronicity, a lot of fortuitous luck as well, but it also sounds like a lot of grit and a lot of elbow grease went in there. So I'd have to ask you, Lizzie, if someone's out there, because we're going 20, 25 years later, right?
Yes.
And they're thinking of opening up their own brick and mortar, what mistakes did you make that you would, warn them about when opening up their own retail store? And what advice would you give the interior designers listening who are kicking it around, because it's not a small undertaking?
It is not a small undertaking. I will tell you that the biggest thing that I've seen is a mistake that I made, and I think others I have known over these years has made, is that
Hmm.
you have to be all in. You know,
Hmm.
to want to run anything yourself, you it never leaves you. It's like having a child that never really grows up. They may evolve, but they don't really ever become an adult. So you always have to be present. The better you run the business, the more people you get that surround you, that take care of you. But even as they take care of you, everyone wants to be led in some fashion. So I think if you're at the helm of it, you have to make
Hmm.
sure that you lead, and you lead so people will want to follow. And even on days when it's a lot and I'm tired and I'm out, I can't come into my establishment and show that. I can't, you have to lead with cheer and joy and, we can all do this. You have to listen.
And that's not
Everybody,
easy.
yeah, wants to feel like, I know, wants to feel accounted for. I
Yep.
honestly think that's the biggest thing. There's a million other
Hmm.
challenges people personally will have to be able to do their own business and do their own thing. But if you think it's something that you can do for a few days a week and then do other things, and you're just going to do this little thing, a
Hmm.
brick and mortar is not it, because you really have to make a good amount of money to keep it going.
I was going to ask you, has it been worth it to you financially? All of the
Yes.
blood, sweat, and tears. Okay. All
But
right.
but not every year. Not
Oh,
always. I mean,
okay.
I certainly took a hit during the pandemic of 7 months of not working, and I still had to pay rent and do those things.
Mm.
And, you know, um, and certain
Hmm.
years are worse than others. Election years are terrible for retail. you know,
Yes.
they really are.
Everybody's waiting
Yeah.
to see
Yeah.
who's going to get elected. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so what would your advice be, Lizzie, to the designers or architects listening who are like, okay, yeah, that sounds really good. I'd love to have a store, a boutique store, but Amazon's killing us. Amazon's selling, all this. Now they have a curated home sections, and interior designers have their own Amazon shops and stuff. What is it that you guys do that competes with the big box stores is for retail? I think I have an idea, but I want to hear it from you.
Well, you know what? I think, first of all, I think that's a route for people to go on. For a lot of people, like they can
Okay.
be part of that Amazon thing and do their thing if they want to. You know what I mean? That is
Hmm.
like a simpler route. I think what
Hmm.
we're doing is we're offering what you can't get on Amazon. So there is always another thing. You cannot get a custom old made wood cabinet installed in your house from Amazon. You can't get
Hmm.
me to custom make you an island or to show me a picture that if I can draw it, I will make it for you. You can't get that. You also, dressing your home is like dressing yourself. Some of us are good at it and some of us are not. And some of us really do, your home is your sanctuary. They want their hand to be held. So if you want to be in this business, it is part therapist, it is part designer, it is part like loving friend, it is all those things. And I think you have to be prepared to bring that to the table if you want to excel, because it is true. The
Hmm.
way this business runs now is very different than it ran 20 years ago. You have
Yeah.
the money is harder to make in certain ways, for sure.
How important is it to get to the volume level of being a stocking dealer versus just getting designer pricing to make that profitable, the brick and mortar?
You know what? I'm not really sure about that, because I think that
Mhm.
my actual business is different in a way, and that what we stock is a lot of what we make. We do stock other
Yeah.
products and things I will say, as an
Mhm.
aside, what we sell is we sell a ton of our own candles. I mean, every day we sell a good amount of those, right? But that's a small item. That doesn't, that's not selling an armoire, which is a lot more money. But
Yeah.
we also recently started a children's line, a baby clothes line, which we do not make, but we
Mhm.
buy what we think is interesting and whatnot. And we have really very quickly noticed those items are selling as quickly as the candles. And so it's nice
Hmm.
to diversify and pick some items that you don't have to make and have blood, sweat, and tears over, that
Mhm.
that your clientele is going to want. And for us, there were children's shops on our street that closed. And we were like, okay, there's no longer kids shops and mothers come in here every day with strollers. Let's see if kids clothes will sell in here. And it really, really is working.
And how funny is that? That taking advantage, just witnessing that the opportunity was there, and it's not really interior design related, but it's definitely ideal client, target audience
Well,
related.
but if you
That's
go
pretty
into
clever.
it's you know what? It's only clever because I also saw there's many other home goods stores in the area, like, that are independent companies that
Hmm.
have either a little bit of women's clothing or scarves or some kids things.
Ah.
I
Hmm.
don't think I'm the only one on that train, and I
Hmm.
think that they're just noticing that who is their client? Their client are young mothers and fathers and whatnot that are coming in with kids. And the kid might
Hmm.
need a cute little wooden toy or a great little jumper that's linen, so it's evolving out of that.
What's a store? It's escaping me. It's a big chain store. It starts with an A that does that. Mixes the home goods with the clothing. I keep wanting to say Abercrombie, but it's not it. And I know it's going to hit me, and everybody's screaming it right now. My menopause brain is totally forgetting it. I don't even know if they're.
Like Home Goods or TJ Maxx or one of those places.
No, no, no. It's like gosh, what is it? Let me Google it. Really, I don't even know if I could Google it. Starts with an A. I keep wanting to say Aeropostale, but that's not it. It's It'll come to me. It'll come to me. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Guys, if you know what store I'm talking about,
Yeah.
I'm having a total menopause moment. Send us a message. Send us a message and say, Darla, how dare you? This is the store.
How could you forget that store?
But yeah, but it's like it's totally curated like that with the dishes and the clothing and things like that. So it's coming to me now how that ties in. It's pretty brilliant actually. Lizzie, so something else that caught my eye too is that you did allude to it before that you have your book, The Creative Style Livable Lovable Spaces, that is a top seller, or is it number one or top
No,
seller on
it's not number
Amazon
one. I
for?
wish it was number one.
Okay.
It's in the top 100 and it stayed
Okay,
there. So we're
awesome.
good. Yeah.
You guys going to go check that out? Can they get it from your website too, or they have to
They
go to
can get it
Amazon
from
for
our
that?
website. They can get it on Amazon. They can get it at Barnes and Noble. They can get it at Target.
Oh, how nice. And that's tumbleweed and dandelion.com, guys, and check out that book. Is there anything that I've forgotten to ask you about having a brick and mortar or selling product?
You know what? I don't think so. I think that if
Mhm.
you know what, if I were going to give advice to people though, it would honestly be like, I think most people would have their, together more than I did, to be blunt. And they would, and to figure and go, okay, this is what I want to do. How do I do it? Know that if you
Mhm.
supplement it with a few other interesting things,
Mhm.
you have a better chance at being successful. Offer them, if you don't think they're going to leave with the candy, offer them the candle, something like that.
Yeah, and I like it. Sounds like flexibility too, and just being able to pivot is key here. You can't just be stagnant. You have to, like, you seize the opportunity with, hey, we got mothers in here with kids. It sounds like you have to be flexible, and you can't just, you don't want to be blockbuster. You don't want to just stick to that one thing and then have Netflix take it over. And I really like the angle of, and then that is how you compete with the Amazons and the big box stores. Although I don't know if there's any big box left besides Amazon at this point, is to do the high level, the curated, the custom kind of thing. Nobody's really ever going to compete with that. You just can't. Lizzie, this has been really interesting. Now I have to ask you, are you ready for the What Up Wingnut round?
I think so.
What would the hashtag on your tombstone be?
Thank you.
Oh, I love that. Gratitude. You're stuck on a deserted island, but you can have your one favorite food forever. What is it?
Croissants.
Ah, very nice. Oui, oui.
Yeah.
Last but not least, please recommend a book that's impacted you either personally or professionally.
There's so many books. That's like a giant question because, the knowledge that we get from reading all that stuff. But I'm going to very shamelessly say my own book because
Cheating.
well, only because I want to put this out there that it's one thing to do something for a client and have them like it. It's a relationship between you and the client. But when you write a book and you put a book out there, it's a very vulnerable position because there are many people that are not going to have an interest in that book for whatever their reason is. And there's a generic style book that sort of goes out there and does well. So when you take a chance, for me, it was emotionally big to do that and to say, here world, here's a bunch of different things I've done. So it impacted me the most, for sure. And it made me look at things a little bit differently.
All right, well, that's cheating, but because you said that so
Yes.
well, we will allow that.
Well, I could give you another one. Yeah, there is a book by Mary Randolph Carter, and I think it's called American Homes or something. It's not in print anymore, but she's an amazing writer, and she wrote I think Junk Style and a few other books and whatnot. But this book was about the seasons of design, and so in the seasons of design, it also had like family recipes and lifestyle things before people were thinking of branding and lifestyle. It's an old book, and it's threadbare, and I still have it because the genuineness and the authenticity of the book were so beautiful. And really, it sort of made you like open the book and go, well, this is how I want my life to look. Before we had Instagram and we're like, you had way too many choices. So
what was the name of that one again? What was the name?
You know what? It's a Mary Randolph Carter book, and I think it's called American Home. I could be wrong on the name, but it's a Mary Randolph Carter.
Mary Randolph Carter. I'm sure if you Google her, you'll find that. All right. Cool. Lizzie McGraw, please tell the audience where they can go to find out more about you, where they can order your book, and we'll call it a day.
Oh, thank you so much. You can find me at Tumbleweed and Dandelion. You can also go to our Tumbleweed and Dandelion Instagram, and we're on Facebook, Instagram. I think we do a little bit of TikToks, but probably not enough. And you can also buy the book on everywhere from Target to Barnes and Noble to Amazon to a bunch of other smaller book sources, design shops, as well as ours, tumbleweeddandelion.com.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much for joining us, Lizzie.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So how are you feeling in this climate, especially in this current climate, about the potential or the prospect of having a brick and mortar store for your interior design business? We've had guests on the show before. You can go to wingnutsocial.com and check the archives for brick and mortar, a retail store, that kind of thing in the podcast, and check those out. We've done a few. And as an interior designer myself, when I was doing full-time design in Miami, I was kicking that around before I had the divorce and the move and came here to Maryland, because I thought it would be incredibly valuable to have butts in the seats when you're selling product. Before I did the switch and did Wingnut Social as my solo full-time, product sales were a huge part of my margin, huge part of the margin. And I can only imagine how much more effective that would have been if I'd have been able to not just say, trust me, I sat in it at a high point, but why don't you come to my showroom and sit on the sofa or see the things or an upsell and that kind of thing. And that's been my experience interviewing designers with their brick and mortars, right? And how they've used them before. And it does sound like Lizzie's using them to that effect as well, but more so really just as a great destination home decor store there in a terrific location in Venice. And how amazing is it that she was just like, oh, let me just do this and pay down my debtors. And now here we are 25 years later, and she has a thriving design firm and decor store. That's super crazy. It shows you how important grit and tenacity is as well in this business, and not giving up. And it speaks a lot to her strength and fortitude. And you guys want to make sure to head on over to tumbleweedanddandelion.com and pick up her Lizzie McGraw Creative Style Livable, Lovable Spaces. It's a top seller on Amazon in the top 100 in the decor space. Congrats to you again, Lizzie. And remember to head on over to wingnutsocial.com if you need help with your social media marketing for your interior design firm, or if you're a to the trade vendor, maybe you're a Korean company, maybe you're Noir, maybe you're Four Hands, and you need some help with your social media marketing. You get the idea. Wingnutsocial.com. We specialize in interior design and nothing else but this whole interior design genre, vertical, whatever you want to call it. And if you're a beginning designer, or maybe you have an in-house marketing department in there, I highly recommend our Instagram for interior designers course over at Wingnut Academy at wingnutsocial.com. It will help you flesh out your own strategy and marketing plan for your interior design business on Instagram. All right, guys, that's it for this episode. Make sure to join us next time. And remember, until then, to get out there, get uncomfortable, and be great.
So it sort of evolved out of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Are those your dogs?
No, what are those? It's not yours. It's that way.
I don't think they're my dogs, because
I know it's really loud, and it's never loud.
Wild coyotes out there. All right, Lizzie, is there anything that we've kind of forgotten to edit? Lizzie McGraw, thank you so much for joining us. Oh wait, what a wingnut! I'm on Dayquil. She established her home goods store. Over 20. Let me start over. Hold on, I got a burp. Excuse me.